armhole, right? That's the first thing we need to do for a sleeve, I think. Yes, so it says on this particular book, I don't know about yours, on this one it says on page 56 of chapter 3, it says to measure the front bodice armhole and record it. That means write it on your pattern. So you can do this any number of ways. As I showed somebody earlier, I don't know if it was all of you or one of you, you can bend your ruler to do it. It just takes, like, normally when I'm laying my ruler out, I'm like tweak, tweak, tweak. Doing it this way is another weird contortion act, trying to get it to lay in there right and be able to tell what the measurements are. So they talk about this flexi ruler. You're welcome to borrow mine. Just make sure that you're using the side that has inches on it, and make sure that you're starting from 0, which isn't all the way at the edge. So you can use my flexi ruler to measure if you want. You can, I would recommend that you use your other ruler and then double check it with this. So you can just bend this guy. So my front armhole, is that on 0? My front armhole seems to measure 8 1/4. So measure it and record it on your pattern. And I think my back armhole is measuring 8 1/4 too. Your armhole should be somewhere in the 8-inch range. It might be 8 1/2, 8 1/4. Usually the back is shorter in length than the front. They can be the same, but usually the back is shorter. I'm just going to double check this guy. And sometimes the back can be longer because of the shoulder, the way it stretches out over the top. Usually I find the front is longer, but in this case, it looks like my back is 8 3/8. So 8 3/8. So I've measured and recorded them on the pattern, and the next thing it says is to add them together. So I'll write it on my sleeve draft. So my front is 8 1/4. My back is 8. What's 3/8? Is that 3 2 5?
3/8 is for what?
3 2 5 3 7 5 3 7 5, right?
Oh, you're asking me decimals. I have no idea.
All right. 8 1/4. 8 3/8. I think it's the same. But okay, so we're gonna add them together. That's 16. So I get 16 5/8. I'll double check my math later. And then it says divide it in half. So half of that is 8 5/16. And then add 1/4. So I get 8 9/16. And then it says record this measurement for your model size in the space provided on the sleeve measurement chart titled armhole measurement. That's down here. So it has measurements for size 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And above each size, like above the 6, it has a 1 inch. Above the 8, it has a 1 inch. Above the 10, it doesn't have anything. Above the 12, it has 1 1/2. Those 1, 1 1/2, 2 inch little notations there, that's called a grade rule. So if you were with me in 1A, I was often talking about accuracy with sewing, and I said if you're like off 1/8 of an inch, that can change the size. So what that means is that a size 8 is 1 inch bigger all the way around than a size 6. So that could be like 1/8 of an inch in each little spot that you sew. So like the side seams, 2/8, right? So back and front, that's 1/4, and then on the other side, back and front, 2/8, that's another 1/4, so that would be a total of a 1/2 inch too big. And then if you had little discrepancies on your darts too, all of a sudden you've turned your size 8 into a size 10. So that's what those measurements are about. They're about grade rules, and that's something that you'll cover in Fashion 109 and 105. And we cover it both digitally and manually. How to grade, which means to take a middle size and make it smaller and bigger. So that's what that's about. So under size 8, you'll record whatever your measurement is. Mine, like I said, I need to check my math, but it looks like mine is 8 9/16. So I'm just going to write it over here because I need white out to fix this. Then on the next page, page 57, it says to draw the sleeve length, and that is back here in your chart. So for us, size 8, the sleeve length is 21 3/4. So that's a measurement that we'll all have in common. We might not have that 8 9/16 in common, but we'll all have. It's on page 56.
Of why it won't be the same?
Why won't the 8 9/16 be the same? Because your armhole might not measure exactly the way mine did.
And that's okay?
Yes, that's okay. So there's a margin in there where it works. So somewhere in the 8 range. 7 is too small,
Right.
9 is too big,
Right.
but somewhere in the 8 range for front and back.
Cool.
All right, so we need a vertical line for the sleeve length that's 21 3/4. So that's one that we'll all have the same. Where to orient it on your pattern or on your paper? For that, you'll look at their measurement for E to F. Do they give us one?
No.
They don't.
They make you draw them.
So the E to F is where we're going to use that armhole measurement, and we're going to figure out how big the kite is. So I'll give you an easy way to figure that out. I created that map over there, right? And so you can just walk over to the map and you can measure one of these and then give yourself a margin on top of that. So I'm pretty sure they give you some measurement. We can use.
Bicep.
Yeah. Oh, the bicep measurement. That's what it is. I thought there was some measurement. So bicep measurement is in your chart. It's the last one. So that says 12 5/8, and I just was measuring on there, and I got, because there's other marks you'll see that we'll make. The biggest mark was 13 5/8. So I would just add a couple inches onto that. So let's round it up to 14, and then let's add 2 inches onto that. Let's make it 16. Divide that in half. So you'll want to go in from your paper, in from the edge of your paper, 8 inches at least, to draw your 21 3/4 vertical line. My ruler is not 21 3/4 long, so I'm gonna have to connect it.
Or you can use your L square.
Or you can use your 24-inch L square. So that measurement is on page 56 at the bottom of the page in the sleeve measurement chart. So there's an overarm or sleeve length and a cap height and an armhole measurement and a biceps measurement. Okay, so I just made a really huge long line, but they want it to be 21 3/4. So I'll pick a spot in the bottom, give myself a little bit of a margin. I'll make a line down here, call that B, and then I'll measure up. My ruler is 18 inches long, so I'll measure up, thank you, 18, and then I'll go 19, 20, 21, and 3/4. And then I'll label that one A. So A to B equals 21 3/4. So then the next step is to draw A to C, which is the cap height. And that, if we look at our size 8 chart, is 5 5/8. It doesn't tell us to add anything onto it, so we're going to measure down from A to C, 5 5/8. 5 5/8. And we'll make a cross mark. We'll label that C. And we'll say A to C equals cap height, which is 5 and 5/8. And then C to D is 1/2 of C to B. So D is gonna get us near our elbow level. So that's one of our little landmarks that we need on our sleeve. So to find 1/2 of C to B, I'll do my usual thing. I'll just fold my paper. And have my B touch the C mark that I made. Make a crease. Make a mark for that. Call it D. So C, I don't want to write it that close. C to D equals 1/2 of B to